Hey, Wes here. Thanks for joining me today. Today, I have a confession. I have an electric kiln. I know I'm a primitive pottery. Primitive pottery is kind of a foundational thing is you fire outside with wood or charcoal or something like that. And here I have an electric kiln. But before you click me off, hear me out. I have all kinds of paint and clay to test. About 100 different samples. And building a fire and testing clay that way is really useful, but not that easy sometimes. And I've often thought that having a little kiln like this would make life a little bit easier and ultimately be a better primitive potter. Another confession, I didn't buy this thing. It was given to me by the Vivor company. They saw some of my videos. They said, you know, we'll give you one of these if you put it in your video. But I am free to say what I want, do what I want, and I will have a bit of a review at the end. But the key thing is I'm going to fire a bunch of these discs today to see how it all comes out. So let's get started. This is not a large kiln. It's big enough to hold a coffee cup or a mug, but not much more. So you can never really do a lot of serious pottery in this thing, big bowls and such. It is supposed to get up to 1,200 Celsius. I'm going to talk about that later. I don't need temperatures that high. If it gets up to 1,000, that's certainly enough. And normally I'm shooting for around 850 Celsius. So here's the plan, is to put these discs in here and get these fired. I have a total of 10 discs in there, and I'm going to turn it up to 850 Celsius. Let's see how that all works, how long it takes, and if it gets up to temperature or not. Here are the controls. Get this turned on. It plugs into a regular outlet, although it does pull quite a lot of electricity. So the top number shows the actual temperature. The bottom number shows the temperature that you're going for. So we want 850 degrees Celsius. And then you hit the P to get it all started. And that's all there is to it. It does not have a sophisticated computer where you can have different kinds of firing schedules. It is either going or not going, or it will hold the temperature. But for my purposes, that's fine. So let's time this out and see how long it takes to get to 850 Celsius. Okay, it took 38 minutes to get up to 850 degrees. That's a little slower than what they say. They say that it will take 34 to 38 minutes to get up to maximum temperature, which is 1,200 Celsius. But now this is the actual temperature, and this is the goal temperature. Now when it's blinking down below, that means that it's holding. So I'm going to leave it at 850 degrees for a little while, and then we'll open it up and see what things look like. At 38 minutes to get to 850 Celsius, that is slower than a wood fire would be, but faster, I think, than most charcoal fires would be. So I think this works pretty well. I like how quickly it ramps up. It has kept the temperature at 850 for 15 minutes. It varies very little, so that part seems to work well. So let's take a look inside. It's going to be hot, but my understanding is this is made so that you can open it up. A lot of people would use this for melting metals and maybe lost wax casting. So it's not just exclusively for ceramics. Should say that the outside of this, I can get close to it without any problem, but you can't really touch the outside. It gets pretty hot. So you definitely want to have a little space around it. It does seem to have a pretty good fan. You should always be in attendance when these things are going, though. Make sure that it's safe. It's been cooling for about 15 minutes. It's around 500 degrees Celsius. So that's how it looks. And this is red paint, and it will turn red as it reoxidizes. It's a good way to kind of see what happens. This has been cooling all day long. It still feels a little bit warm, but it's been several hours. So let's take a look at what we have. So you can see the reds got much redder as things cooled down. Seems like it fired fine. I'll take these out and do some comparisons and show you what I actually come up with. In my second attempt, I set the kiln temperature to 1150 Celsius, and in fact it did ramp up to that temperature and seems to be holding it within a degree or two. I will show you what it looks like inside the kiln when it's hot. It should be glowing. Here we go, very hot in there. In fact, I can see that the clay is actually melting. Here are the test tiles with all the different colors, so that is pretty nice to have. Some other things you can do as well is just test the clay to see how it fires. Let me show you something. This is a piece of clay that I fired up to 1150 Celsius. Obviously did not do very well. Very interesting. So, and it actually stuck to the bottom of the kiln. So to find out how well something fires and whether it is strong or not, that's all useful. Another thing you can do is test whether it is shrinking or not and what the shrinkage rate is. This is a comparison of colors that were fired in a fire versus in the kiln. So these two are the same paint. This one was fired in the kiln. This was fired in an actual fire, I think a charcoal fire. Turned out pretty similar. Same way with this. This was fired in the kiln. This was fired in a natural fire, charcoal fire. So it is a pretty good measure of how the colors will turn out, but the colors will be different in a regular fire just because of the chemicals that are in the fuel that you are using. Here are some tiles that I painted yesterday and fired. The nice thing is the whole process took just a couple hours really, and so they turned out fine. The one thing that you do not get is if you want a blushing where you are using lignite coal or sheep dung or something like that, that's not going to happen in a kiln. You get a much cleaner kind of firing, and that may not be desirable from a primitive pottery perspective. Let's wrap this thing up. The little electric kiln turned out actually to be nicer than I thought it would be. It worked fine for firing these little test tiles, both for testing the clay and for testing the colors. As long as things are kind of small, it worked well. I was pleased with that. There's some good things and not so good things, but for the most part, it is what they say it is. The inside of it is roughly 6 inches in each direction. So you're not going to be firing big things with this, but that wasn't my intent. My intent is to be able to test. And if I wanted to fire a mug or something like that, I could do that, and I think I probably will. The first time that I got it going, it wouldn't go beyond 1,000 degrees Celsius. But I tried it another time, and I set it at 1,150, which is the maximum they recommend. And it did that. That wasn't a problem. And once it ramps up, it will hold the temperature. It does not have a sophisticated computer for ramping up and slowing down. But, you know, for my purposes, that isn't necessary. It says it will go to 1,200 Celsius. I didn't try that because they say the maximum recommended is 1,150, and it did that. And it was amazing how it kind of morphed this piece of clay. So that's kind of useful to know, what your clay will sustain. I like that you can just plug it into the wall. Not a problem. You don't need a lot of electricity for this kind of thing. It seems to be pretty well insulated. You can't touch it when it's fully hot, but it doesn't emanate a whole lot of heat. You don't need a whole lot of space all around it. I raised it up on some bricks and felt underneath, and it wasn't hot underneath. So I think you can fire this just on a tabletop. So that flexibility is kind of nice. So for testing clay, for using it for primitive pottery, I would say this is really useful, and I'm glad to get it. Again, there's a link down below if you are interested. It is an affiliate link. They did give this to me, but I am absolutely free to say what I want about it, and I believe it is what they say it is. So thank you so much for joining me with this, and if you like the video, thumbs up are great, subscriptions, always love comments. Thank you so much, and until next time, this is Wes wishing you health, happiness, peace, and love. Take care. Bye-bye.